Everybody wanna be black until it's time to file them taxes. Until it's time to walk into their job interview and your skin color don't grant access. Damn, everybody wanna be black. We athletic, make cool dances. But everybody tell the black man be quiet when he's strong and he take tough stances. Everybody wanna be black. When you're black, you influence everything in the coach.
Easy dates. On the box it said dates don't have to be expensive to be nice. Dates should be thoughtful and considerate. And I definitely believe that. So inside the box, the contents are 2 sets of cards, which is the question card and a date card. And also you got your dice and your pawns. So we're gonna play. I'm gonna have 4 actual players, but everybody else in the audience will have the opportunity to participate.
How you living, family, and welcome to the Counsel Culture Show, also known as Counseling for the Culture. I am your host, licensed professional counselor, and the therapist you know, Linton Hester. I want to say that you are welcome to this series, which is entitled MENDay Monday. We have had an awesome guest appearance from June 5th to June 12th, and tonight we have a special guest who is none other than the Men to Heal movement leader, Mr. James Harris. And so with that said, I want to also say thank you for being in. Don't just be on, but be in it, because we're going to have engagement. I want to hear your discussions. I want to hear you ask questions and take in information, because this episode is entitled Men and Mental Health. And so just for a few housekeeping notes, I want to kind of move along and say, if you are new to tuning in, thank you and you are welcome. If you are a repeat person of viewing in the audience, thank you for coming back and tuning in with us. And so again, ask your questions, put a comment in, give a black fist, give any kind of comment to let us know where you're viewing from. If it's from your car, if it's from your device, if it's from inside your home, your laptop, or the rooftop, we want to say thank you for joining us. And with that in mind, what I would like to say is Happy Father's Day. We actually had Father's Day that recently came up, and I want to say Happy Father's Day to all the kings. We are very appreciative of you. We value you. We thank you, and continue to do what you do, because Black fathers matter. And Black fathers do exist. And speaking of Juneteenth that just passed as well, we want to say that we celebrate liberation, we celebrate the freedom, we celebrate our ancestors and those who paved the way, whose shoulders we're standing on. We are so forever grateful. So you are the true actuation of what your ancestors have fought for, from everything of life, servitude, living, from giving to being resilient. It's not all dark and dreary, but we celebrate our resilience. We celebrate our strength, our fortitude, our physical strength, our spiritual strength, and our mental fortitude, our mental strength. And so again, happy Juneteenth, happy Father's Day. Thank you, viewers, for tuning in, and we appreciate you for being here. And so I want to say this. During the first episode, we had Mr. Alan Elliott, who came in with fitness and mental health, who talked to us about ways to carve that body, to get that Greek god bod, and to help you to learn all about fitness and nutrition, but also bring an amalgamation of the things that are biological and psychological, because he talked about mind-muscle connection. So it takes the seat of the mind to be able to also build that muscle. So you have to focus and concentrate and regulate that body. And then episode 2, we had Mr. Anthony Murray, where we talked about money and mental health. Now, I will say this. Sometimes money can stress the mind. If you don't have enough money, if you don't have enough funds and you got too much month at the end of no money, then you're going to be stressed. And so that plays a part in your mind as well. And so we want to definitely thank those who came and visited us, who came as guests and gave their expert input, because this is a solution focused show where we give you insight from experts and professionals in their field and in that industry to help you live a better life now and on a daily basis. So without further ado, I would like to bring to the forefront our dear friend and the licensed mental health professional, who is not only that, but he is a multiplicit individual. So Mr. James Harris is also the author of Men to Heal. It is a guide to help men to just express yourself. It's a man, just express yourself. And so it's an interactive planner and guide for men and young boys who are young and old to help them to deal with some of the issues and problems. And I actually use this book myself. So brothers, wives, aunties, big mama, grandmama, whoever you are out there listening and viewing, please order the book, get this book. If you love your man, if he's your king, if you love your son, if he's your prince, if you love any man in your life and you're connected to, I want to encourage you to get this book, because I use this book and it is very helpful. And I appreciate Mr. Harris for actually drafting and coming up with this book, because it's needed. We need to learn how to express ourselves. We're not robots. And he is also the creator of the Cheesy Dates board game. Yes, he created a board game, not just for you if you're single, not just if you're married, but if you're in relationship, if you're looking to date, if you're looking to be in love and to get along with a significant other. He created this game just for all of us. So we want to thank Mr. Harris for doing that. And in addition to that, see how I'm going on and on? Mr. Harris is doing it up. He is also a TED Talk speaker. He is an international speaker, and he is the founder of the Healing Hub. And so we're going to get more into asking him those questions and picking his brain and getting information from him as an expert mental health clinician. And so we want to thank you for being here. And so without further ado, I want to bring to the stage our main guest, our special guest, the founder and the healer and the leader of the Men to Heal movement, Mr. James Harris. Thank you, Mr. Harris, for being aboard and being a part of the Council Coach.
Listen, I received that. I definitely appreciate that, man. Thanks for opening up your platform to me. I definitely excited to be here. So, let's get into it. Let's figure out which direction we need to go to better assist the people.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And so I did have a few questions that I asked you, and we're very grateful that you're here, Mr. Harris, because I've had a few questions regarding men and mental health. And even when I'm in my sessions, dealing with wives or dealing with, the female group and dealing just in relationships, a lot of men, are looking for therapists. It's hard to find a therapist. So one of the things I want to do, I want to kind of ask you this from the beginning. What inspired you to create and drive the movement Men to Heal?
Oh man. So Mental Heal just was I'm sure you probably had this assignment in grad school too. So, this is one population that you can work with. Who would it be? So I chose initially veterans because I'm a vet too. I did 8 years, 2 deployments, 1 Iraq, 1 Afghanistan. So a couple of people from my cohort, some people chose sex workers, some people chose LGBTQ, women's rights, veterans, first responders, just stuff like that. So then I just looked around my cohort and realized I was the only Black male, and I was one of 3 Black people, within that. Everybody else was white or Asian. So I just figured like that, if this is a micro visual of the world, then, it's definitely needed. So long story short, I wound up doing the assignment, got a good grade on it. So then fast forward, at the completion of grad school, I started my practicum at this site that was women dominant. It was owned by two phenomenal women, Tangi Moore and Shonera Blackwell. So, I was the only male there for about a year and a half or so. And I just remember that assignment because they do phenomenal work for women. They do retreats, they do, um, just different stuff. And I was like, hey, when we gonna do something for the men? When we gonna do something for the men? So then I just took it upon myself to go ahead and do something for the men. So at this time, I owned a art gallery. So what I did was host just one event, men and mental health. Come out, bring your questions. Women come out if you want to advocate for your the men in your life. Men come out if you got some questions or you got some concerns and things that you want to address. Um, so I started doing those quarterly, and it just blossomed. It went from 20 to 30 people in attendance to upwards of 60, close to 80. Just different topics: men and mental health, incarceration and mental health, um, athletes and mental health. Just so many other different areas I wanted to touch. So I had different panelists from those respected areas, and it just continued to grow. And then just being an entrepreneur and being business minded, I decided to monetize it. But first, like even before that, I just was like, oh man, I got this session coming up. Like, let me get a shirt made and, so I can wear it. But the monetization piece came from it because everybody at different just throughout, just walking like, oh man, that shirt is dope. What do you mean? Or how can I get one? My uncle, they started giving information about, oh man, I ain't know you was a therapist. My uncle need to see somebody. My dad need to see somebody. So at that point, that the shirt became not only a conversation starter, but it started to become a advocacy billboard. Before I know it, people was like, hey, I buy one to support, man, or I buy one and wear it for my uncle, or I buy one and wear it for my dad, or I buy one just to support. So it just continued to grow. Um, and that's pretty much how I got here, man. My upbringing too, though, just to get in the therapeutic field was um, I was awarded a state, so even as an adolescent, like being awarded, I don't know how it is in your state, but being awarded a state in Virginia, therapy is mandatory. You got to do weekly sessions or whatever the case is. So those sessions were typically not cohesive and not beneficial to me at that time. I'm this young black kid from the projects, and the therapists were older white people. It wasn't a cohesive bond. I didn't obtain as much as I could from it, so it wasn't beneficial. I felt that it was a check in the box for the facility or whatever the case is. So that's how my introduction to therapy was a poor experience. So I emancipated myself at 16 and all that. So I joined the army. Like I said, I did 8 years, 2 deployments. I knew I was different, so I wanted to be different and better for my family, and not give them the traumas that I've seen in war. So I tried therapy again, and it's the same process. The therapists didn't have that combat experience. It wasn't relatable. They were teaching or doing sessions from what they learned from the book, and not necessarily what they learned from having experience of dealing with soldiers and sailors and airmen. And that's part of the reason too why a lot of soldiers tend to go to the groups or nothing at all, because of the lack of experience. So all of those things, those two primary things collectively, is what led me to get in the field. And then of course I just told you how the movement started with that assignment in grad school. So here we are.
Wow. Wow. That is really a story. So let me ask, when you're working with veterans and you're working with civilians, is there a difference in your approach with the different groups?
Yeah, so it all depends. I mean, you being a therapist, you will understand that you're treating the specific client, not necessarily the diagnosis. So each client is a tailored process. It's different, opposed to just having a blanket. All right, I'm treating PTSD, so everybody who has PTSD, I'm gonna treat this way. Nah, so I
Mm.
specify for each specific client. It just so happens because I am a combat veteran. Um, I have that relatable experience. So the cohesiveness is built a little bit faster,
Mm,
to where, that soldier is more likely to let me in, opposed to we just doing this silent treatment. It's more resistance. So those things tend not to happen with me. I've seen, and I've heard too, just from the the partners of those individuals, or the loved ones of those individuals. Like, hey, you the third therapist that we had. I don't know what's going on, but they said they enjoyed the sessions. They said they got XYZ from it. We talked all the way on. So little testimonies like that let me know that it's a difference, from seeing somebody with the combat experience, or just seeing me, because I make it relatable.
mm. Wow. Wow. That's interesting. So let's see, based on your experience as a licensed clinician in working with Black men, what would you say are some of the primary issues that you see when men come into therapy?
Yeah.
And I
So
know that's a broad, that could be broad. I'm sorry.
No, I got you. Yeah, it's all good, man. So I work with everybody. I got women on my caseload. I got children. I got couples, and of course, yeah, I got men, and black men. So to answer your question though, specifically with black men, I think one of the, not even black men specifically, but just a lot of men are, ignorant to the fact of certain diagnoses. And what I mean by that is, collectively in society, it's a lot of unresolved trauma or complex trauma. We got a lot of unresolved grief. So a lot of people become numb and desensitized to certain things, and they just think like, this is how I am. Added to how they were raised to shield off the world with certain emotions, or displaying certain actions and mannerisms, just based on not wanting to be chastised and things like that. So one of the things I do with this session is the education piece. So if we take something like depression, right? Historically, when I see pro athletes or just college athletes, I have to educate them on what depression is. And I've had several beast of men, from physique wise to just dominant on the field or on the court, or that specific sport that they play. I've had them tell me like, "Nah, I can't be depressed. That's for cheerleaders." I ain't depressed. I had 12 tackles the other day. I broke a record. Or did you see me dunk on XYZ? I ain't depressed. So when I actually break it down to what depression it is, like, uh, how you interacting with your teammates. You still hanging with them after practice or before practice. How's your appetite? You still getting your couple meals in a day? Just going through it. How you sleeping? Are you able to fall asleep at a decent time, stay asleep throughout the night? So just getting to the textbook definitions of, or the DSM definitions of, the symptomology of what depression is. And then from there, man, they be like, oh man, like, I haven't been eating like I normally eat, or I did wake up a couple times the other night, or dang, after the game, I don't even hang with my teammates like I used to. I just go to my dorm and, or I go back to XYZ. So, just educating them on different diagnoses and getting them away from the mindset of the stereotype or the stigma surrounding certain diagnoses. So I think once that happens, they realize like, oh man, I'm not inevitable. I can have, I can go through trauma, I can go through grief that I need to process, or I can be depressed, although I'm 6'5", 230.
Mhm.
So doing those things, I think, has helped a lot of them overcome, man. And even with the depression piece too, um, they just feel like, especially the pro athletes, they feel like you just signed a contract for more money than you ever had, but you still lack fulfillment. Like
Mhm.
you're not around your family. You're traveling state to state, playing different games. But outside looking in, the people are telling you you're not depressed. You just signed $20 million contract, or you get to go any way you want. You get to buy anything you want. You get any girl you want. Those things aren't having that person be fulfilled. There's still a void there. So again, it comes, the education piece, I think, is the most beneficial piece to those, specifically the male population that I serve. Just educating them on, hey, this is why these things are happening within your relationships, or within the interaction with your teammates, or in the community, or whatever the case is. Just helping them be able to distinguish the two. Like, none of those things equal fulfillment, and you have to address the issues, whether it's trauma or grief or depression, or anything else beyond.
Wow. So it's like a lot of them don't know what it looks like. They lack the awareness, and they just kind of like, it's like functional depression.
Correct. Yeah, because you want, like I said, you either numb and desensitized to it, or society is telling you you're not depressed because you got,
Mhm.
these material things or these tangible things, but not necessary. And think about it, you society is telling you this, but all along after the game or after work or whatever the case is, you going back and you like, yo, I don't want to be around nobody. I ain't even hungry. I just want to sleep. Like you're going through actual depression, but you don't register it as that because everybody else is telling you how great of a guy you are, or how awesome your life is, and all this stuff. So
Wow.
it's mixed. So once I educate them, now we know what it is, boss. We can treat it. We can assist with the grief and or the trauma or the depression or the anxiety or whatever it is. So just the
Mhm.
education piece and to just help them with navigating where they need to be.
Wow, wow, that's amazing. That is amazing. And so, I'm gonna move on and ask you this question: does it really make a difference having a black male therapist when addressing social, racial trauma, environmental factors with men and young black boys? And the reason why I ask that question because I do see, especially in posts and Facebook and things, you have other groups who are educating and advocating and being allies, but do you think it makes a difference depending on the person, whether it's like a black therapist or if it's a white male therapist who's an ally, or if it's a white female therapist who is also an ally?
So allyship is cool, and you
Mm-hmm.
probably hear words like cultural competence. Cultural competence is even cool. I don't disagree with that or allyship. However, being from the culture is just a different experience. So in Virginia, we have the Department of Social Services. I don't know what it's called where you are, but uh, it's probably the same or probably some similar. But anyway, for like I told you, I was in the group foster care group home years ago. So I still advocate now on FAP teams, so family assessment planning teams. So that's for people within services. I don't know if y'all have some similar, but
Mm-hmm.
so just think about this. How you were raised probably as an African American man or you know, let's just say a different culture, whether you were black or Jamaican or African or whatever it is. So historically, it's a collective view of society and how we do things. The individualistic mindset is often associated with the European mindset. So what I mean by that is it's not uncommon for young black people to collectively, all the cousins and siblings, to go over Big Mama house and stay and sleep on the floor and play for the weekend. But
Yeah.
and this is my experience. So I remember vividly being on a sitting in on a FAP team discussion to assist the family, and the other therapists, I don't know that nationality, but they weren't black, right?
Mm-hmm.
They said, "Oh, that's unstable living. This you're not supposed to be doing that." So I interjected, like, let's slow down. This is not uncommon for historically African American families to do this. Like a weekend at Big Mom's house with all the cousins, while the grown folks are, what out or playing cards or whatever the case is. This is normal. So don't contribute that to an unstable diagnosis or part of it. Whatever the case is. So
Mm-hmm.
just the advocacy piece is different. So just imagine if I hadn't been there and they contributed that to this family, they would have gave them even if you look now at the diagnosis rate of ADHD and so many other diagnoses are misdiagnosis within the African American culture. So and that's part of the reason. So to answer your question, all in all, yes, I think it's important for people to see people who look like them for those specific reasons. Like just realistically, I can treat an Asian person based on my knowledge and case studies from doing different assessments and case studies from Asian culture, but I don't know realistically about the Asian culture outside of what I've learned from school, those case studies or whatever. So let's just say I'm treating them and it's a breakthrough. It's going well, but realistically, I still don't know how his customs or traditions or norms will impact him if I did know those things, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like I can treat them based on my competence level, but not based on a level of, oh, this is how it is traditionally for your subset, or, like he will be better suited from a therapist of his diaspora just based
Mhm.
on the norms itself. You know what I'm saying? So ethically, yes, I can do it. Legally, yes, I can do it. From a competence level, yes, I think I have enough to do it. But should I? He would
Mhm.
definitely benefit more potentially from somebody who looks like him and who has traveled the road that he's traveled.
Wow, wow, that's amazing that you say that because being here in Georgia, uh, there specifically the city I'm in Savannah, there are maybe only about 3 or 4 black male therapists that are licensed. Only 3 or 4, and I'm looking at the ratio because every time I turn around, they are looking for a black male therapist. So what is it like where you are practicing? Is it a growing number? Is it like kind of like a unicorn type of approach for black male therapists in where you practice?
Yeah, I mean, man, I think it's a little bit of both. It's catching on. Like a lot of people are open to the idea, but yes, it's still the vast majority that I'm familiar with is still like, oh man, black male therapist. I ain't even know. Let me get your information, or where can we, But I do so much in the community. I think my presence has um gotten a lot of eyes and attention on me because my practice is called the Healing Hub, right? So it's just like what it sounds like. It's a hub. So not only do I do my outpatient there, but it's a space where I do community yoga, Zumba, mindfulness. I got a community closet with different clothes and toiletries that I give out to the less fortunate. Pre-pandemic, I was feeding the less fortunate every third Saturday, but now there's restrictions on prepackaged food and so many other things. So I don't feed now anymore. But so it's also a venue space. So first time home buying, restoration of rights, voter registration, um, just so many different seminars and segments that I bring. The community is aware, like, oh, it's a black male therapist, So I don't know. It's a handful of us that I know, and I got a referral list that I send, people to. But outside of that, I think it's pretty much it's half and half. People are still like, oh man, I ain't know. But then it's a lot of them like, oh yeah, I went to this at your spot, or I seen you at XYZ speaking, So it's I think it's increasing more than what it was when I first got in the field. Um,
Wow.
well, when I first got licensed, I've been in the field for close to a decade, group homes and juvenile centers and schools and stuff like that. But license has only been a couple of years.
Wow, that I see, and I follow you on Instagram, and I be looking. I'm like, man, Mr. Harris out there killing the game, and
Hey
so
man,
I'm telling you, man, I'm inspired by it because, and to me, I think it's important, and I look at that, I'm like, man, Mr. Harris out there doing, and that's one of the reasons, one of the things that inspired me to do the podcast to get the word out because I saw you doing YouTube, and I'm like,
yeah,
Mr. Harris, I'm gonna tell you this, I remember the first time you set out and you started doing YouTube, you was like, if I get this many followers, I'll keep it going. And all of a sudden, I keep going back. I'm like, man, these numbers getting high.
yeah.
you
So
know?
that's what I'm saying. So just the awareness piece. I only like, bro. I'm not tech savvy at all. I got to IG late. I literally just started. I was like 2 years late on IG because I just had Facebook. I wasn't really pressed on it, but the message was so deep. People was like, bro, where can we follow you or whatever. So I finally cracked and created one. A couple years later than everybody else on the train. I literally just created a TikTok a month or two ago. So that's increasing. But the YouTube thing I started because like people inbox me, like let's just say today I get like 12 questions on, hey, what can I tell my young son? Or or like I got a lot of single moms like, hey, I'm raising a boy, what can I do, blah blah blah. So it was just easier for me to say, oh, go to YouTube. I created a video, single moms raising boys, and it was like, all right, cool, appreciate it. Or either the fellow clinicians, I said I did a video on items that they can itemize on their taxes, just stuff like that. uh, a lot of it was easier for me to just say, hey, go to my YouTube opposed to answering 50, DMs or whatever the case is. So that's how the YouTube came about. So before I started it though, just being entrepreneur minded and understanding the relationships I can have and the potential funding I can get from being monetized, I did my research. And 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours. So that was my goal. And I was like, listen, if 10% of my Instagram people just go to my YouTube and subscribe, I'd be good. I'd be cake. So needless to say, it happened in about 6 or 7 months on for the YouTube platform. So I was thankful for that, man. And those, Instagram don't pay no more, but YouTube still pays. So and now, like I said, I'm trying to get this TikTok to jump off to
Start
where
ticking and talking on.
yeah, man. So hey,
Wow.
man, if I would have started that a couple of years ago, I definitely, because I see a lot of therapists now eating off it, So now I just post to both of them and let it do what it do. So it's slowly growing.
Wow.
So we'll see what happens.
Wow, yes, sir. I mean, man, that's definitely inspiration because I mean, I think it was one time I did see one of your YouTube channels, and you were like, this is the fastest way I can get the message out to people. I can only be in one place, but the message will go broad if I get on YouTube, and that's one of the things I've been seeing. And I'm like, man, it's inspiring, especially for
Yeah.
clinicians who are starting, veteran clinicians, and those who are out there really trying to kind of be a part of the movement that you have. And so I wanted to ask you this as well, and this is along the lines of the things we see with microaggressions, racism, and things that happen. As a clinician, in your experience, is the institutional machinery of racism a factor to a person's mental health? To you, have you seen it, experienced it, and what are your thoughts on racism and mental health?
Yeah. So I mean, realistically, so even if you not even the direct impact to it, right? Like you're asking about the like let's say this person's at work, just that impact alone is detrimental. But let's take about the people who are not working, those institutions around that also impacts the mental health. We talking about a lack of availability and resources, like a funding towards those people. What if they're not on the bus line? How they gonna get to me? You know what I'm saying? So I made sure my practice is in the middle of the city. Just think about, it's so many phenomenal therapists out in the counties or in areas with middle to higher class socioeconomic statuses. But what about those people? To answer your question, yes, it definitely has an impact. Um, and a lot of people don't take insurance because of those impacts. Think about the people who typically have insurance is the people who are on Medicaid, Medicare, and or it's a handful of people who got insurance through their job and things like that. But the majority of the people that I found that have assistance is the public assistance, But to go back to the question part of it, yes, I think it is an impact from um, the systems. You talking about the imposter syndrome, like not thinking that you're good enough in those work environments, that can do some detriment to your internal well-being. You talking about working long hours, underpaid, then you got to go home and deal with your family and or your partner, and just wearing the weight of what happened at work or what happened on your way from work, so those things are definitely impact. And then you got certain jobs or institutions to where you're not even as recognized for the work that you're contributing within that, so it's somebody with less experience or whatever the case is being promoted before you or getting certain entitlements that you're not entitled to. So yeah, those things definitely weigh on you. Just think about how many jobs now it's a mediocre white man in charge of a phenomenal black person. This black person got more education, more experience, or whatever, but this white guy knew somebody, played golf with somebody, or whatever the case is, and all the work is shifted down to these people. So of course that plays a part on how you deal with your day to day. You start questioning whether you're relevant, are you being validated? All those things happen, man. And I think it's probably ignored often, way more often than it's probably addressed. Because some people get in there too, like, all right, I ain't even gonna worry about it as long as I got a check coming, I'm good. But it's also some people like, man, I gotta find something else. That's why burnout is so high, or that's why people are working in jobs and they got a degree in something else. They were like, nah, I can't work in that field. They just got on my nerves, or they ain't respect me. It was no growth, there was no promotion, or I didn't get along with the people because they were showing those aggressions. So it's so many different factors to me, I think, that play into it, but I definitely see it as an issue. Um, and I would like to see more EAP providing uh, services offered for that, specifically for that, geared towards that, because people need to process, man. If not, then it's people tend to get fed up.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And speaking of those with the current events of some of those microaggressions, micro insults, and racism, and
Mhm.
I noticed even on one of your posts, there was some type of shooting that occurred. Was that in Virginia or was it in the surrounding area regarding high school?
Yeah, so that was 2 weeks ago, man. High school graduation. That was
Yes.
right here in Richmond. Yeah, the young man graduated. He and his father got killed at the graduation. That made national news, I want to say, but it was right here in the backyard, man. I was literally invited to that graduation. I know his mom. Her and I went to school together like over 20 years ago, high school. So I just checked on her yesterday, as a matter of fact. Yeah. So the funeral was this weekend. They buried the son and the father. So that was a tragic situation, still ongoing. But they caught the person who actually did it.
Wow, man, I am so sorry to hear that. And see, and those are the things, those traumatic experiences and events that happen. And so, what would you do, and how would you go about a person who may have experienced something like that, um, who has such a traumatic event? What is a typical take or message you would send to people on ways for them to kind of shield themselves from so much exposure with the negativity in media and those traumatic events?
Yeah. So I mean, we got to understand that trauma is going to be here. So we just got to do. So to answer your question, as far as the media and all those things, you got to do those things within moderation. Be careful what you're listening to. Be careful what you're watching. So I say it like this, and there's a part in my book. On dieting. So be careful of what you ingest, not just from a nutritional standpoint, but from a overall intake standpoint, because those things subconsciously can get embedded into your mind, your memory when you're trying to sleep or when you're thinking or whatever. So you want to ensure that you're not uh, giving yourself too much than you can take on. And then, yes, you can become numb and desensitized to it if those things are repeatedly happen. If you constantly hearing trauma, you think is normalized, or if you constantly
Mm.
seeing trauma and abuse, or those things, you it's normalized to you. It's not until you get into another setting or go somewhere else, you're like, oh man, they don't talk like that here. Or I ain't see this incident yet. Like, what's going on? So, and that happens. And it would take you probably to leave your immediate proximity to see that the world is bigger than what you thought it was. And also with that, man, trauma, a lot of people don't know that it's not only the emotional signs of trauma, but it's physical signs of trauma too. So when we talk about the emotional signs of, we were talking about sadness, we were talking about anger, we were talking about denial, fear, shame, things of that nature, which can lead to, of course, the nightmares, insomnia, difficulty in relationship, and emotional outbursts. And a lot of people don't associate that with trauma either. So those things that you want to make sure that you are moderating what your intake, so you're not responding vicariously and hurting people, whether it's your children, your partner, your coworkers, your teammates, or whoever. And listen, if you got physical signs of trauma too, whether it's nausea, dizziness, or sleeping issues, having difficulty falling asleep, staying asleep, nightmares, headaches, gastrointestinal issues. A lot of people don't even know that gastrointestinal issues, digestive issues, are and can be a sign of trauma or depression and so many other factors. So you definitely want to pay attention to those things. And then if you ingest too much of it, people are probably familiar with PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder, but not so much. So not so many people are understand what acute stress disorder is. So acute stress disorder is the first month of that traumatic event that you observed or witnessed or you were the victim of. Post-traumatic stress disorder is, of course, anything beyond that month. So it can be a month and a day, it can be 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. It's so many studies and things that are out now. Somebody can have that recollection from a memory that they repressed from 50 years ago. So it's definitely important that you understand and you address and you process your traumas and not just take them in directly. And of course, if you continue to take those things in, not only acute stress disorder, PTSD, but the depression, anxiety, dissociative identity issues, and some people, of course, ultimately go to substances to try to numb it or try to forget it and stuff like that.
Wow, that is amazing, because I know that we do only really put the spotlight on the emotional aspect. I even myself, I always focus on the emotion, but not the physical part. As far as
Yeah.
what you just described, that to me, I got to do my research because
Yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah.
important. That's
It is
important.
important, man. And so some that you probably can incorporate too is having your clients go and get a physical, and of course when we first got in the field, or even as recent as maybe 5 to 7 years ago, doctors, psychologists, psychiatrists, and those alike just figured that the mind and body was separate. But now they're saying treat it from a holistic standpoint, because of course your mental can affect your emotional can affect your mental. And we're talking about some as simple as heart disease, which is the number one killer among African American men, African American women, and so many other things. But think about it, heart disease. Let's just say you're overstimulated, you're hypervigilant, um, you're depressed or whatever the case is. Like all of those things, that stress alone can cause you to have heart issues. Those heart issues, now you're thinking about it like, oh man, you can go into the existentialism. Am I gonna die?
Mm,
What my wife and kids gonna do? Like what I'm gonna do is my will and stuff set up. So now that's causing you anxiety or depression. So of
mm.
course those things are now neck and neck. The physical can affect the mental can affect the physical. So yes, I treat both of them. And just asking basic signs that I can do within my office about, palm sweaty, heart beating fast, talking about hypervigilance and so many other things. But then, yes, I recommend physicals if need to, blood pressure checks. All those things are definitely important.
Okay. Wow. Wow. Now, and let's say, for instance, there is a wife or significant other who has a family member who is suffering from, whether it's depression, if they're bipolar, manic depressed, or if they're going through any of those type of mental health challenges. What are some things they could do in order to be a support or help with managing some of those symptoms, if it's that woman or that their
Yeah.
spouse?
So what I typically tell those people, because I get a lot of parents, I get a lot of partners, ask me that question too, or say, "Hey, here, my husband or my son or my brother, he needs therapy. Help him." I tell them, "Hey, it's two people that I can assist. They should come back when they're ready. One, somebody who don't see an issue with their actions, and two, somebody who don't want to get help right now." Because it's going to be too much resistance within the session if they're here just because you want them to be here. They gotta want it. If not, they're taking up a spot for somebody who do want it. But then I also tell them to make sure that you're safe, not just from a physical standpoint of this person reacting violently because you're badgering them about getting help, but from an emotional standpoint, don't drain yourself with this person, whether it's a child or adult who don't see an issue with their actions and don't want to change them. You have a decision to make. Hey, I'm gonna give you this resource. It's up to you to use it, but I'm no longer going to feel the need to deplete myself in order to help you. And that's what we see a lot, especially with in relationships, like a person not knowing if they should give up on this person or if they should continue to say, hey, you need help. They pretty much become a doormat. They become a person that is getting the person at their worst or this person at the altered state. So of course that's important. Make sure that you're safe from the emotional baggage that can come with that. So do what you got to do to take care of your own mental health. Don't deplete yourself trying to help somebody who don't want to get assistance. So do your due diligence. Hey, I seen this book that might can help you, or hey, I heard this about this article. It seemed like you might be going through what this article is talking about. Or hey, for the last couple of days, I noticed that you did XYZ. You mind checking it out? You mind and more than likely they're hearing it not only from you, that partner, that spouse, that parent. They probably heard it multiple times too from coworkers or teammates or somebody else, and they probably feel different, but just don't want to take those necessary steps. So do what you can from the standpoint of I love you, I want to protect you, I want to see you better, but I love you, I want to protect you, and I don't want to hurt myself too. So it's two parts to it.
Okay. And then this is one question I want to ask you before we take a 30-second break. Where do you see your passion lying right now in the therapy industry? Where's your passion needle pointing to right now?
Assisting more people who look like me to get in the field and excel. Not only from a monetization standpoint, but from a knowledge standpoint, just educate a lot of other Black men coming up within the field to assist them to be that go-to within that area, whether it's speaking engagements, whether it's community involvement, or whether just in their practice. I've just been fortunate enough that I'm able to speak all over the world, man. A couple people had me in retreats in different countries. A couple other um, figures in different countries, like, hey, enjoyed your message. You want to do virtual? We can fly you out or whatever. So I'm just fortunate that people are gravitating to it because they see that it's a need for it. So I want to ensure that I'm passing that on so other people can, benefit from it.
Wow, awesome. We definitely appreciate it. And so, and I, man, I'm telling you, putting in the work, Mr. Harris, you are really doing it. And
Yeah.
so what we're gonna do, we're gonna take a 30-second break. We'll be back, and then from there, we're gonna ask maybe a couple more questions to not take much of your time, Mr. Harris. Then we're gonna get into what we call not the real deal, but the wheel deal. So we're gonna spin the wheel, ask you a few fun fact fire questions, and we will be back just shortly. You all stay tuned. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to MENDay Monday for the podcast, Counsel Culture, also known as Counseling for the Culture. If you have not been here, we have the special guest, Mr. James Harris, who is a part of the podcast tonight, where we're talking about men and mental health. And so for you who are new to being with us, welcome and thank you for joining us. For those who are returning, thank you for coming back. That shows that we have some valuable information that you are looking forward to gaining from this podcast show. So with that in mind, we do have a few announcements and a few housekeeping notes that I want to provide to you. So here, all this month, we've been having MENDay Monday with Mr. Elliott, who came on the 5th, Mr. Murray, who came on the 12th. And tonight we have a special guest who has been providing us with great insight, information, and passion regarding his field of study and his specialty, Mr. James Harris, who is also an author of the book, Men to Heal. He is also the TEDx Talk specialist and international speaker and the creator of the Cheesy Date board game. And so Please make sure that you tune in, continue to watch towards the end, because we're going to talk more and be back more with Mr. James Harris. In the meantime, for the next episode, episode 4, we actually have Mr., which is the Dr. Jamal Lawrence, who will be bringing information regarding overall healthcare and wellness to the show on next week, Monday. And lastly, what we also have is for you to go ahead and subscribe, follow the YouTube channel for more information, and connect, so that we'll continue to keep valuable information coming to you from healthcare professionals in their field, where we bring solution-focused methods to you and you don't have to go out and look for it. So without further ado, we're going to bring back our special guest, Mr. James Harris. Welcome back, Mr. Harris. We definitely appreciate you for being back with us. Yes, sir, Mr. Harris. Awesome. And so Mr. Harris has been sharing with us great information based on his field, based on his area, and all the things that he do regarding being a licensed mental health professional, how he's monetized, how he actually pours out and has the healing hub in the heart of Richmond, Virginia, to where he provides great information, great resources, and he facilitates so many events that the city needs. And he is also an international speaker. So this is great to know. I'm inspired. I hope you're inspired, and fellow clinicians who are also looking to be in the field, veteran clinicians. And so thank you all for joining us. We're back with Mr. Harris, and he has been actually dropping a lot of gems to us. And so with that, Mr. Harris, I want to ask you just a few more questions, and then we'll get out of your way. And so what have you been seeing? Because I know lately we have been talking, or the media has been circulating about suicide and the climb in numbers of African American men and boys who actually have been having suicide attempts, contemplating suicide. What are your thoughts to share on that topic regarding suicide and mental health with men?
Yeah, so suicide awareness is something that I think should be beyond just one specific gender. We definitely got to ensure that we're paying attention to it, but also treating those in different areas, whether it's culturally, from an age standpoint, because 18 to 24 is that significant. Even before that, I think the ages has changed now to 12 to 24 of the young people to adulthood are completing suicide at a much faster rate than they did any other previous decade. And of course, from another cultural standpoint is the ethnicity piece. The African American men are completing suicide, and a lot of people don't know, women lead the efforts in attempting suicide, but men complete suicide more. So those things definitely have to be addressed, whether it's in school or whether it's in the communities or even at your local churches, your clergy offices, however you need to do that. But when you're talking about suicide, it's definitely some signs that you probably can recognize, and don't be afraid to I guess question your loved one. If you got to annoy them, it's easier to um, well, I would say it's more beneficial to lose them as a friend, not talking to you, than to lose them as a friend and they no longer exist. They took their own life. So if they get mad or upset, then let it be. But they're here another day based on your efforts. So talk about them if they want to kill themselves, or if they want to, thinking about harming themselves. Talk to them about feeling empty or hopeless. If they say things like, I don't have a reason to live. You want to, hear for key things. You want to talk about guilt or shame. Talk about them feeling trapped. Just play off what they give you, because those might be potential clues that you could probe further, or you can get them assistance, whether you calling the 988 number or your local crisis number within your area. It's a lot of, I know here we got what we call the CSB, which is the Community Service Board. It's probably called something else in your location, but you just want to make sure that you are doing your due diligence. And if they own any substances, whether alcohol or drugs, you want to make sure that they're sober. You want to make sure that they are not adding to these things. So if they withdrawn from family or friends or giving away items, just pay attention to who they are and who you know them to be, and call them on it.
Wow, wow. And and that's the funny thing, because I'll say I remember a few years back, there was my brother-in-law was on the phone for hours with a friend of his, and he said that it was just unusual. And so he just kept having this long, drawn out conversation on the phone. I mean, he was on the phone for maybe like 3 or 4 hours, but he was never able to recognize the sign, because it was only after the fact that he was like, man, I wish I'd have known what to look for. I wish I'd have known the signs. And I think that, with that information that you gave, just looking for the clues, do you have to have a trained eye to recognize a person who's actually having these preludes to suicide? Do you have to have a trained eye, like be a therapist or a practitioner?
I mean, I would say no. It helps if you have it or if you're familiar with what to look for. But again, like just hearing different stuff from this person that you normally talk to a couple days a week or weekly or every other week, you can tell potentially if something is wrong, if they are withdrawn or giving away possessions or talking about it would be easier of life if I wasn't here, or my family can do so much better without me, or they just putting their affairs in order and so many other things. And again, this is where my YouTube come into play. It's a video on there on suicide. If somebody want a in-depth, um, I guess, breakdown of clues and insight to what suicide is. So definitely go to their YouTube and check those things out. But I mean, to be real with you, you should ask direct questions. Even if it's tough or hard for you to say, "You thinking about hurting yourself?" Ask them anyway. Listen for the answers. People with suicidal thoughts, they typically feel alone. So you want them to feel like they got you as an ally or you as support. And then, of course, you want to do safety checks if you can. If you don't feel comfortable, again, you can call 988. You can call the non-emergency number. But of course, if you're African American, be cautious with that, because if the authorities come on scene and they feel like this person is a threat to themselves, they may come in hostile, and it could be a different situation for this person. So just be cautious on that. And don't keep it a secret. If you are under the impression that this person might want to hurt themselves, you don't know, just call a local therapist or call another close friend or clergy member and try to get them help. But don't keep it to yourself. And then if something happens, you start worrying that guilt. But ultimately seek help if you can.
Wow, that's amazing. And that's the thing that even I didn't realize, that when you say women lead in attempts, excuse me, women lead in attempts, but men lead in completion of
Completion.
suicide. Wow, that makes a difference. That really makes a
Yeah.
difference, other than just saying, like, so many people complete suicide, this and that, but really having key insight on who. And as you mentioned, it's just not just a thing that's dealing with, the ethnic groups, but just people, period.
Yeah, it's
Just being able to
because
recognize the sign.
it breaks down even further to age, to gender, to um, ethnicity. Like all of those factors matter once you start viewing the suicide, I guess, mortality rate. And now I don't know if you're familiar with when the new DSM-T TM5 came out a year or two ago. Suicidality is not a, like, you can be suicidal and have thoughts, but it not necessarily mean that you want to complete suicide. So that was one of the changes too of the new DSM.
Hmm. Wow, wow, wow. I'm definitely glad you said that. I gotta pick the new one up. I don't have the new one, so I gotta get the updated, the revised version. So,
Yeah,
but yeah,
It's a breakdown on my YouTube for that too. So
wow. Yeah, I got it. I'm following it. I'm following it because I get those bills. I got to get onto it so I can look, because you provide a lot of insight and information. That's why I think it's, I really appreciate you for being here on the show and sharing that, because there are clinicians who've been in the game for a while, clinicians who are new to, stepping on the court with playing the game and being a part of the industry, who need to have that inspiration. Not only that, but those who are seasoned and can point them to the right direction, give them objective information to help them with navigating this course. Because, it's not like flipping burgers. It's like this is a life or death game, because you have people hands in your lives who are, sometimes in crisis, who have a severe need, or just confused, and all of the many complexities that come with the human mind and dealing with those emotions. It can be convoluted with a lot of challenges. And so I appreciate you, and I give you your flowers, Mr. Harris, for being here and doing what you do, because you're an inspiration to me in the field. And so what I would like to do, I want to get us to the wheel deal. That's what we're gonna do, the wheel deal. So if you give me just a few minutes, I want to pull this up for us so that we can have this on par. And it's just 5 questions I'm going to ask you, 5 fun facts, and then we'll get into what you would like to leave with the audience before we close out the show. And let's see, we are going to share this screen and see where we are. And so here we go. The screen is as follows. The first question is, a book. Well, and we'll ask, that's the second one. So what is a book and a person that's impacted your life, Mr. Harris?
Is it either or both?
Both. A book and then a person.
A book that impacted my life. The Alchemist was a good book. I enjoyed reading Kobe's book too. That was a phenomenal book. Just to see, because he was a dominant player, my favorite player, but to understand how he did some of the things that he did, like he took it upon himself to read the book for the referees, the officials, so he'll know where the dead spots are on the court. So he'll know he know it. If I'm right here, I'm not gonna get certain calls, or I can get away with certain things. So to get that insight from him was just phenomenal, because it makes you think, like, if I could think about it, he had to read the officials rule book. He took it upon himself to do that, to not only be more dominant with this craft, but to just be to continue to elevate his game. So
Yes.
that was phenomenal, and that's still with me. And I remember being like where if I'm employed somewhere, I definitely read the policies and procedures to see one, what I need to do, and then two, of course, what I can get away with. So
Yeah.
yeah, and to be real with you, man, and a lot of my coworkers have often said that, like, yo, you just don't care what you do. Yeah, I know. I do care what I can do. I just know they can't reprimand me for it. So I that was one of the books to me that was more impactful. People wise, I would say this guy by the name of Rodney Hanshell. We still keep in contact to this day. He was one of the workers at the group home, man. So when I emancipated myself at 16, I went to college. At 18, I was technically homeless, right? So my freshman year, on summer break, winter break, spring break, all those things, I used to sneak back in the dorm room so I can have somewhere to stay. I had my car, had a foreman in my car, microwave in my car, whatever. And him from the group home a couple of years ago, we ran into each other. I think we kept in contact, whatever. But he was like, "Hey, man, my son is going for this period of time. He's living with his mom in another state. You can just stay in my son's room or whatever." So he's probably one of the ones I would give that nod to. And he was in my wedding. Like I said, we still keep in contact this day, man.
Wow, that's amazing. I'm telling you, Mr. Harris, you gotta, man, you're inspirational, brother. You
Hey,
really
man, I
are.
appreciate that, bro.
Wow. Oh my God. Yes, sir. And so I'm gonna take us back to the wheel deal and ask this next question. Let's see. We're gonna get back to where we are. All right. So the next one is what 3 superpowers would you choose and why?
Three superpowers. That's a tough one, man. I think I would want to be able to what is it, have multiples of myself. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I can be in more than one place. I think that would be a good one. Um, Probably the ability to fly. I think that'll be a good one. Um, and the ability to, I don't know the last one, man. That's tough. Yeah, probably read minds.
Yeah. Oh man, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good one. All of those relate to your field already. Just being in one more than one place at one time, so you can spread yourself and get to where you need to go with flying and being able to read minds. Man, that's okay. All right. And so I'm gonna spin this. You see, we got just about two more after this. See if I can expedite this wheel. And what are three financial action steps? That was for the last host, but we'll ask you anyway. What are some three financial action steps you could use today to begin financial freedom?
Make sure you're doing a proper budget. Make sure you are understanding how to itemize, whether that's on your personal taxes or your business taxes. And make sure you're saving. Saving starts now, not only for yourself, but of course for the next generation. So if you have a kid or you don't have a kid, you want to make sure that you got those things in place. So generational wealth is important, not just from a financial standpoint, but from an educational standpoint as well.
Wow, wow. Well said. Thank you, thank you. Spin this one again. Let me get to we hit that one. Okay, we hit that one. Last one. We're gonna make this one the last one.
Okay.
Let's see. Ooh. Who was your favorite fictional superhero growing up?
Um, I mean, I like Optimus Prime, man, because he was a good leader. You know what I'm saying? Like,
You're
and
right.
I need to see that new Transformers, as a matter of fact. But from a leader standpoint, I think I don't I don't recall seeing a leader that can command the way he command and accomplish the mission. So I would say Optimus Prime. But then as I grow older and start watching the live action Marvel movies, Captain America was pretty dope too. Steve Rogers, he
Yeah.
was um he was noble and he also was a good leader. So
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. You're right about that one. Hey, I got to see that movie myself. I got to see that Transformer, and yeah, that Captain America movie was dope. It was.
yeah.
It was. All right. And so let me see. I think that's all the questions we have. And so what we want to do, we just want to. What is a message you would like to leave with your viewers, your supporters, your audience, and those who are actually in with us today? What is a message you would like to leave with them, Mr. Harris?
Yeah, ignore the perception of others. So if you feel that you need assistance, you feel like you're not being yourself lately, you feel like you want to be more of yourself or identify who you are, who you can be, ignore the perception of others. Do what's best for you in those situations. Do what's best for the people vicariously around you that may be impacted by you. Um, Having issues. So definitely get help. Ignore people saying boys don't do that or men don't do this or you don't need to get therapy or whatever. Do what's best for you in that situation. So if it is seeking help, then seek help.
Well said. Thank you, Mr. Harris. And don't forget, make sure that you go and pick up the book, order it wherever books are sold, Men to Heal. You can also get the t-shirt, Men to Heal, and also the Cheesy Dates board game from the creator himself, Mr. Men to Heal, who actually has a movement. So again, Mr. Harris, we appreciate you. Thank you for showing up on the show, and we look forward to having you back, man. I mean, I appreciate you. I can't believe you're here. You're real, brother.
Hey, no, man. Yeah, no, listen, I appreciate the invitation, man. But one slight correction. The book is Man, Just Express Yourself. But yeah, you can get it anywhere books are sold: Barnes and Nobles, Target, Walmart, Amazon, all those places. But it's beneficial to me if you get it off my website, www.mentoheal.com, www.mentoheal.com. And of course, while you're on my website, you can get the shirt, you can get the board game as well. But it's also a resource list on the website for people who may need therapy or need a hotline or even impacted by homelessness or abuse. So hit that resource list. And also on my website, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is also Men to Heal. So if it is, I think it was a question earlier that I skimmed through a suicide, and it was probably something else on there, but it's different videos on my YouTube that will be beneficial for the masses. So hit the website. Everything is pretty much there.
Wow. Awesome. Awesome. Well said. So please be sure to do that. Give support, because this is a brother who goes out of his way to support others, to give of himself. And so again, thank you so much, Mr. Harris. We appreciate you. We're going to go ahead and let you get to the backstage while we close out. Again, thank you so much. You all, thank you. And Mr. Harris, we'll see you shortly.
Oh, man, appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. So here we go, everyone. We want to say thank you so much for viewing and watching us. And you can reach him again on www.mentoheal.com. For those of you who are watching, again and that are new viewers, make sure that you go and support his movement, Mental Heal Movement. And again, the book is Man, Just Express Yourself. I am Linton Hester, licensed professional counselor and the host of Counseling for the Culture, also known as Counsel Culture. Thank you for tuning in as we look forward to seeing you another time. Stay safe, stay lifted, and stay tuned.
However, living better now, better now. However, living better now, living better now. Living better now, living better now. However, living better now, living better now. However, living better now, better now.